Thank you guys for hanging in with us. I'm Jerry McNamara, the host of Best Places to Lead. And we have a great guest for us today, Tyler Robertson, the CEO of Diesel Laptops. And just a great story about how he has grown his firm through the pandemic, bootstrapped it over the last 7 years out of his garage to become a massive success. And so, Tyler, thank you so much for being here with us.
Hey, thank you for inviting me on. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. It's always fun to share my story and what we've done. So yeah, let's go, man.
I love it. So most of you have been here before with us, but for those of you who might be new, we'll do 30 to 45 minutes of a conversation with Tyler. I have tons of questions about how he's been able to create success for his company. And then obviously, if you guys have questions, you guys can hop in, ask him directly. And it'll be fun. So Tyler, give us a little bit of the backstory of starting your company, how you got there, and where you're at today.
Yeah, I mean, I'll maybe do that in a little bit in reverse, but I mean, so it was 7 years ago in March, I quit my full-time job working for someone else. And when I quit, it was just me. I had a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and I had a wife that didn't work. And I quit my job in the garage, dining room table, that whole thing. And I can tell you today, we have a little north of 200 employees. We'll do about 70 to 75 million in revenue this year, and we bootstrapped it. So we didn't do it with investment capital. We didn't do it with all these investors and those types of things. And we're in the B2B space. So we're specifically in the B2B space of helping all those trucks that you see delivering product to you stay on the road or get back on the road quicker. And really any diesel powered equipment. So it's really commercial trucks. And an even bigger diesel world is the off-highway world. So it's the diesels you don't see. It's the farm tractors, it's the cranes, the bulldozers, the excavators, all that type of equipment. And our company helps those people through really 4 different ways. Number one, and the core of our business is providing a diagnostic tool. And these are sophisticated tools to fix sophisticated equipment. These are all computerized equipment today. And we built all of our own repair information to help fix all the things. So the tool will tell you what's wrong. The repair information will tell you how to fix it. And then we also realized that all these people that are doing this, they need help actually learning how to properly diagnose advanced pieces of machinery. There's not a lot of schools and training opportunities available to people. And we have training centers we've propped up the United States and online where we train people on how to properly diagnose commercial trucks, diesel engines, all these things that go on with them. And then I have a call center. So our call center is unique. I got 50 people now in a call center room, and half of them are IT pros and the other half are diesel techs. So we actually employ about 30, 35 diesel techs here at our company. And these are people that have been, working on trucks for years, and they're ready to sit in an office or at a desk all day long and help people over the phone and over the internet. So we kind of go to market, not just with, hey, here's a tool, but here's a tool with all the resources you need to be successful in your job. And that's really been the big differentiator in our company. I can say when we came into this not too long ago, 7 years ago, nobody knew who I was. I hardly had a website, no brand name recognition. And our existing competitors are multi-billion-dollar companies that we go compete against. Names you'd recognize: Snap-on, Bosch. These are our competitors in this space. So we're the little guy competing against these multi-billion-dollar revenue behemoths, and it's been a fun ride up until this point.
I don't know of anyone on this call who wouldn't be super pumped going from your garage and kitchen table to 75 million in 7 years. I mean, that is an amazing trajectory as you look at it. And I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but we talked a little bit about the additional spaces that you're going to move into. Carol Ann Sharp, who's one of our super fans, she has a farm, so I'm sure that she has tractors that probably have needed your services. And we talked a little bit about Matt Foxhall, who has a Tesla, although he's not in one right now, who came and proactively diagnosed an issue while we were having breakfast together. And you said that's a great space for you to go into the EV market, which would be the next adjacent space for you. So I think there's lots of good runway that you have in front of your business for sure.
Yeah, we talk all the time about the runway we have ahead of us. And I think the one we've really kind of picked our path on is the fact that when you look at the commercial truck market, there's $34 billion a year sold in truck parts. And this world still operates the same way it has the last 50 years. If you need a part for your truck, you have to either drive somewhere or call somebody and give them the VIN number, and hopefully they can look it up. There's not tools available on the internet to go look up the parts like there are for automotive. So we're sitting here saying, man, we got tens of thousands of users a month using our diagnostic tools, our repair information, our parts lookup tools. Why don't we build a whole marketplace behind that where they can actually see price and availability and click buttons and have parts show up instead of this old way of doing things? So that's a big market that we're really heading into. And we actually, people, I get the question all the time, hey, Tyler, your diesel laptops, what about EV? Like, what are you guys going to do there? And yes, EVs are definitely coming, and net emission zero trucks are definitely coming to our space. I was actually just up at one of the truck manufacturers. They invited us to their place because they wanted us to see what was going on in the whole EV market, because they were essentially saying, hey, we'd love to work with you guys. And I didn't understand it until I got there. And the part I didn't understand was really the charging stations. There's charging stations all throughout the country. They're all computerized. They're all different brands and manufacturers. And there's a maintenance thing and a diagnostic thing that needs to happen in that space. And even with commercial trucks with EVs, there's still a lot of componentry. So I thought when I flipped the hood of an EV commercial truck, there would be nothing there. I was like expecting no engine, no nothing, like a blank slate. And come to find out, there's actually a lot of stuff in there. There's cooling componentry needed. There's new circuits, new components that are in there. So it's not like a Ford F-150 Lightning. I know you have the frunk, right? You open it up and there's no engine, there's storage. It's not like that in commercial trucks. So it's just it's a different thing in the commercial world. But we really see opportunity in the EV market. And the other big one that makes the headlines a lot in our space is robots driving trucks, autonomous trucking. That's a big play that you see a lot of companies. Too Simple went public this year, valued $2 billion. That's all they're doing is figuring out how to make trucks drive themselves. And we actually really love that because guess what? More sensors, more wiring, LiDAR, radar, all this extra advanced technology. And at the end of the day, that stuff breaks and it needs diagnostics, it needs repair information. And our company is going to be the ones there providing that to the aftermarket and to even OEM dealers in some cases. So yeah, it's a constant evolution of problems happening in the market, new technology, new products. And we're constantly looking at the future saying, man, how do we keep making sure our company evolves and changes with the times? So we have a ways to go for EVs to really take over the heavy truck market. I always tell people today, I can still say this today, I won't be able to say this in about 6 months, but there are more Bugattis in the United States than there are Class 8 electric trucks. And these are the big over-the-road trucks that you see. So we have a long ways to go until we get mass adoption. Plus we have the whole off-highway industry that is probably going to take a long time to get to the EV world just because they're out in farms or mining operations and places where you typically can't put charging stations. So yeah, we got a big future ahead of us.
So Tyler, there were two things that really intrigued me, right? So we look at the success that you've had. You're going to do 70 to 75 million this year, which is incredible, and lots of runway ahead. But I want to talk about two things. One is that you were the CEO who ended up becoming the bottleneck in your own business. And so in 2019, you had stagnated and you were in the 20-ish million dollar mark. And then you realized you were the problem. What steps did you take to get out of your own way?
Yeah, and I mean, up to that point, I mean, we were doubling revenue every year. Like that was just kind of set in stone. That's what was going to happen. And as you said, 2019 happened and it was really weird. Like we used to just go like this. And all of a sudden our revenue went like this one month, then down, then up, then down. And when you looked at it, you're like, man, we're kind of breaking, kind of even here. What's going on? And I think one of the key points is I'm an entrepreneur through and through. I had so many ideas and so many things all going in parallel. Nothing was getting across the finish line. And I was finally getting some there. And I was like, man, I need help. Like I've been the one-man show. Everyone's going to me for every question. I'm managing the best I can. I'm like, I just need to get someone else in here that understands my industry, can help get me these products to the market. And I thought to myself, who do I know? I've been in this space for 15, 20 years and really two names came into my head. So I called the first guy and he's my age. He's in his mid 40s. He's like, well, and I worked with him for 10 years. And he's like, well, Tyler, I don't know if I'm even interested. I'm retired. I'm kind of helping my wife with her business. I'm in the best shape of my life. My kids are young. Life's pretty good. I don't know if I want to do anything. I'm like, please just come up here for half a day and let me show you what I have going on. And, thankfully he came on and I thought I was bringing in a guy to help take these products, but he really quickly was like, dude, Don't even worry about that. You'll never be able to execute. You got chaos going on inside your company, and we got to figure this out. So he kind of set me down that path of being like, okay, you're right. I need to take a step back. I need to breathe here. What's going on? And we found all kinds of chaos inside our own company. And what it really took for us was bringing in a management consulting company. It was someone that me and this VP had worked with before. And we brought him in, and step one, they said, we're going to do a growing pain survey. We think you have some growing pains going on here. I'm like, what are growing? What are you talking about? And, we got the results back, and the things I thought I was doing a good job at, my employees are pretty clear, you're doing a really crappy job at. And I had to really take a step back and be like, all right, let's go fix this thing.
What was one that surprised you, Tyler?
Yeah.
You thought you were doing a great job on, and you really sucked at?
Yeah. So, I'm the CEO. I'd walk around every day. Hey, how's your day going? And what's going on with here? And I would talk to the employees as much as I could. And I would email every month, like this big email, like, hey, here's all the things going on. Here's the revenue numbers. Here's this, here's that. And I thought I'm doing a great job explaining to the employees where we're going, why we're going there, how we're going to get there. And we do this growing pain survey. And I think that was the lowest rated thing, was we have a clear direction in our company. They didn't understand it at all. And they were right. I wasn't super clear. I think sometimes, especially as a manager, a leader, or CEO, you have a lot of things in your head and they don't kind of come out clearly and simplified to everyone on these are the important things. And that was one of the first things we did with the management consultant. He's like, what's the goal? I'm like, it's a good question. I guess I don't have an end goal. Like he's like, what's the 3-year goal? What's the 5-year goal? All these things. And we didn't have clear answers. And I started to realize, unless I know what the goals are, I can't make the right decisions to get to those goals. We're just kind of throwing everything out there and seeing what happens and what sticks to the wall. And it's really hard, at least it was for me, to get out of the day-to-day doing things, just trying to keep doing these things versus, hey, we need to get really into the mindset of where are we going to be in 3 and 5 years? What are the key goals of the company? Let's strategic plan, and let's drill that through the entire organization. And that was really the path that got set on. So I still give, his name is JB. I still give him a lot of credit, man. I'm glad you're here, because I'd probably be still putting out fires and stuck at that revenue number. I had to get out of the way. And it's really, when I say that, I had to do a lot of things. I had to hire employees that I was paying more than myself, right? I had to give up control on things that I knew very well and how this should be done, and say, I need to give this to somebody else. I can teach them how to do this. And I'm going to go then have time to go focus on these other things. And there was a lot of things we went through in that process. So it's a journey we're still on today.
I think that's one of the, so I have 2 comments for you. One is, the revenues that you were at, I call it I'll use the gender, but the great man theory, right? We can still impose our will on the business. I can still walk into someone's office. I can still make sure that a project gets to the finish line, but it begins and ends with me. And so the business can only get as big as I am getting and as good as I am to direct people. And so you broke through that plateau by taking that bold leap of bringing in people who were smarter than you, better than you at certain things, and having the courage to pay them market salaries to have the 10s inside of your business. Obviously, the end result of that story is it worked out really well. How do you make that leap of faith? Like you look and you say, man, I'm going to pay someone more than me, who's the owner and the CEO. How did you do that?
Yeah, I think for me, okay, I'll give you my mindset at that point, right? It's different than today. When I was at that point, I was stressed out. Like I was working crazy hours, weekends, not hanging out with my kids, being quick and snappy with my wife, not having a soul. Like I did not have time for that, because I had to deal with all my time on this business thing that all of a sudden wasn't growing. And I had to get in that mindset of, if I don't get out of the way, this thing is never going to grow. Like I'm going to be stuck here forever. And you start thinking about it. Like I thought about my dad's company. My dad's got a 3rd generation owner in his company, and they've been at the same revenue number for the last 25 years. And don't get me wrong, they're okay being there. It's a lifestyle business. They're happy with that. But it was really because they're not going to change. They're not going to do things a different way. And I was like, man, if I don't do this, like I'll be here forever. And I didn't want that. I've always been the person that has said, man, like we just had a record month in March. And I was excited for a day. And then I'm like, okay, guys, now we got to do it again in April, in May, and June. Like, how do we keep this momentum going? And I've been that way my whole career. When I work with other people, we'd have record months. I'd be, have a celebratory, drink that night or go out with some friends. And it's like, we're back to the grind tomorrow and let's go do it again. Like that's
Right.
history. Now tomorrow's the next day. So I just knew, like, to me, there was no other solution. I have, if I want to keep growing it, I have to change how I'm doing things. And I can't do things the way I've been doing them. I have to do a different way. So when I work for somebody else, I've been through training before and they kind of force these things upon you and you're kind of like, yeah. And you do it a little bit, then it kind of goes back to normal. And that was the conversation me and JB had, is like, man, if we're going to do this and spend this much money, make this much focus, how do we make this a part of our culture? And I think like this is the thing we live, breathe, and talk about with all the employees going forward. And that was a big part of just making that commitment that this isn't a one and done deal. This is us going forward, doing things a different way than we've been used to doing them. And it worked.
No surprise, right? I think there's hallmarks. I've run 5 different businesses, 5 different industries, B2B, B2C. Business is widgets. There are certain hallmarks because the things that run businesses are people, and those are the same no matter what business you're in. And so, part of that, when I think about, your journey is, and Matt says this all the time, when values are clear, decisions are easy, right? And so when you have that North Star, it is way easier to allocate the resources on the opportunities that are going to unlock the best result. What happens is that when we don't have that North Star, what we want to do today is different than what we want to do tomorrow because we start, chasing the shiny objects. And so I'm sure you chase a number of shiny objects during your day because if you're an entrepreneur and a visionary, it's what we do, right? We chase objects and getting back. Yeah, Isaiah Rosick's saying, no, entrepreneurs don't do that. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And so
I was going to say that was the exact problem we had. Is I was an entrepreneur, and when you're the owner, CEO, and the entrepreneur guy, nobody tells you no. Like all the employees, like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and all of a sudden you end up doing a bunch of things. I can tell you, going through this process, like we just went through our Q2 planning, we're starting our Q3 planning for engineering team, and I can tell you when we went through that process, and it goes through different levels. Every time we come to a task or a project, we always point right back to, does that line up with our strategic goals? Does that get us closer to what we're trying to accomplish in 3 years? And sometimes they're really fun, cool things we all want to do and we're excited about. And then when you look at it, we're like, no, that does not help us get there versus this other thing. We have to reprioritize this stuff. And it's really tough to get your entire company to do that. So we just had an opportunity. State of California, they have required emission testing for commercial trucks coming up, where you have to hook a tool up and make sure that your emissions aren't tampered with and these other things. And we have that tool. And our guy's like, yeah, we should do this. It's state of California, it's less revenue, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, yeah, but then we're not gonna be able to do these other projects that have this much more potential. And these projects line up with our strategic goal. That's cool. It will generate revenue, but it does not. So unfortunately, we have to bump that down the priority list. And they get it when you explain it to them. But that's been kind of the long thing with this is, like, I was on board. We had to get the senior execs on board. We had to get the managers and directors on board, and we had to get the employees on board. And that process took us years to get to that point. But now that we're here, it is really remarkable when you get your whole organization understanding what's important and rowing the boat in the same direction. All of a sudden, things just go faster and faster and faster, and you get laser focused on what's important in your organization. And as you get a bigger and bigger organization, it gets more and more important for everyone to understand where they're going. And that can be a difficult thing. And it took us a long time to get here. I think we still have more room to go to be doing better at it, but it's much better today than it was, even last year, 2 years or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's super important to point out, right? So I want to ask you about your strategic planning piece, but when you do have that North Star and you start to filter all of your decisions and all your great ideas from, does this fit in with our vision? Does it fit in with our values? Does it match up with our objectives? And does it help us hit our revenue target? Those are the filters that I take people through to say, is this a good idea? It may be a great idea. It's not a great idea today based around what it is that we're trying to achieve. Do you guys have, because that is a massive cultural shift that you have to make, when we go from running and gunning and the great man theory to systems and process running businesses, What tools, what resources did you use to implement that change across the business so that everyone is aligned on what the objectives are, where we're going over the 3 to 5 years, what our values are? What did that look like for you in implementing that cultural change?
Yeah. So, I can sit here all day long and me and the senior execs and make up a 5-year plan, 3-year plan and goals, but really we're not the ones driving it. It's the managers and directors, the employees that work for them. And we were in a weird spot where we were growing so fast and hiring people that had never been managers and never been leaders before. So strategic planning, they were like, what is that? That's a big word. What does that mean? They didn't even know, right? So we went through a lot of training courses explaining what a strategic plan is and how we plan and how we're going to think about things. But through that process, the big shift we had to get our managers and directors and these people to do was not do their job they were doing before. We had to explain to them, we need you to work yourself out of a job. Like if you're working on products, you're working on markets, you are working on the wrong things and spending your time in the wrong areas. We need you worrying about operational systems, resource management, management systems, culture. Like that's why you have employees to do those things. And for some people, that was very, very difficult because they forever were that person previously before us inside our company. And all of a sudden now they've never been a manager, never been a leader, and they got 20 employees reporting to them. And we're saying, you need to be a leader, you need to be a manager, you need to do strategic planning. And they had to learn not to do the things they used to do before. And that's really tough for a lot of people to do. And when we went through that process with all of our managers, I can say there were a couple that just raised their hands and said that we cannot do this.
Right.
This is not my skill set. I don't want to do this. And one of them was our sales manager. He was the guy that got me from 0 to 20 million. He was the guy that said, I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I agree with you. I'm glad you're raising your hand. We'll find another place for you. He now does national account sales and makes more money than when he was a manager, which is great. He's happy, doesn't have to deal with people and management. And we brought in a vice president of sales and the person that says, I'm not going to sell. I'm going to worry about these other things to make sure we have a great sales organization. And it's been like that. I can go department by department in that case. And we had some employees who just were not getting it. They were managers. We're going through the training. They're not understanding. They want to do it. They just couldn't or didn't want to. And unfortunately, we had to say, I'm sorry, like we don't have a spot for you here. We're going to have to move you somewhere else. You're going to have to find another job. And those are really tough decisions when you have employees that have been with you since day one. And unfortunately, not everyone grows at the same rate as the company grows. And sometimes the role and sometimes the company will grow you. And we always try to find a home for those people. But the fact is, usually when they're at that point, they're like I was, overstressed, overworked, not happy with their life, not happy with their job. And it's not a good situation for everybody. So hard decisions have to be made sometimes inside your own organization, but it is what it is if you want your organization to move forward.
What I find is they're typically thankful for you to call it out and say, yep, this is not me. I'm in it over my head. And it's more of a moment of relief than it is a moment of stress. I think it is interesting when you talk about that, you think about who gets promoted. It's the people who are great at doing the doing. Doesn't mean that they're great at managing the people, right? And so it's the sales manager trap. We take the best salesperson, we'll make them the sales manager. And getting people out of the mindset, the high achievers trap, that I have to do all the doing because that's how I've gotten rewarded, that's how I've gotten recognized. And I don't have to do all the doing. I'm going from the first tuba player to becoming the conductor of the orchestra, and changing that mindset of getting out of the business so that you can work on the business and literally direct people, the right tools, the right resources, the communication, all of those pieces. It's a massive shift that people need to make to get them to that right place.
Yeah. So I mean, 2 stories there. We had another sales lead and we had to say, hey, you're going to be a sales guy. Like this is not working. And he was really, really, really upset and thought about quitting and all these things. And, about a year later, I'm talking to him, he's still here. He's like, in hindsight, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. He goes, I've lost like 60 pounds. I'm happier at home. I actually make more money now. I'm selling. I'm really good at this. And I thought I wanted to be a manager. No way. I love doing this thing. And I can tell you, I'm the same way. Like it surprises people when I tell them, like, literally, I am gone by 4 p.m. every day. Like I don't work a lot on the weekends. I don't deal with like the day-to-day stuff. I don't even know what's going on half the time around here. I was just at a trade show and stopped by one of the vendors and they had a new product out. I'm like, oh, cool. When are we going to sell that? He goes, dude, you've been selling it for a year. I'm like, oh, okay, great. I'm glad we're selling it. But I don't have to do those things anymore because I have people I can trust and I'm confident in. I was just able to take 2 weeks off with my family to go to on spring break and do stuff. And there was no chance I could ever do that before. And it's just once you have people you can trust and know they're going to execute, it's really a game changer. And by the way, that frees up your time to go grow the company and worry about the future. And the growth rate actually accelerates by you not having to deal with those things. So it's really a hard place to get to. It took me a lot of years, even when I worked for somebody else, I never got there. And it took me a couple of years at Diesel Laptops to get to that mindset and to that point. But now that I'm there, I'm like, now my brain constantly goes to, how do I not do this task anymore and get somebody else to do this for me? And that's the same conversation I have with a lot of new managers is figure out how to not to do that anymore. Work yourself out of a job. If you can do that, I will promote you. That's the whole goal here.
Two quick corollary stories. When I ran the construction business, we did 18,000 rehabs in the state of Florida. My goal every day was to not know a single address of a rehab that we were doing, because the only addresses I ever knew were the ones that were messed up. And so if we didn't have any problems and I didn't know any addresses, then I could focus in on growing the business, which, thank goodness my people were really good at managing properties. And, I think just inspiring people to say like, no, I trust you, go make good judgment and, make good decisions. And you just get yourself out of their way, you'll be amazed at what their ability to perform is. And, to your point about, leveling people up. My earliest mentor, Jerry Keller, grew up in the music industry where the only way you could get promoted was if you brought someone along and trained them how to do your job. So, everyone started in the mailroom, you became a secretary, assistant agent, and then an agent. And that was the culture that you brought into this. And so it's not a matter of leaders constantly swooping in to firefight, to your point earlier. It's how do we level these people up to get to a higher level so we can go continue to make bigger and better progress.
Yeah, we had a senior exec meeting today. We do them once a month and we go over goals and financials and projects and all those things. And that was one of the big topics today. It was like, okay, you guys are all senior VPs. We have VPs and directors and managers. I'm like, look, senior VPs, I lose one of you, I'm in trouble here. Like, we need to start getting this next emerging leaders, or whatever we call this, up into this whole thing so they can understand how I think, how we think, and understand how important the strategic directive is, and start drilling that down throughout our organization. And it's just, again, it's the constant evolution, the constant things you need to do to keep driving the company mission forward. It's not just you set it January 1st and you look at it December 31st, it's a whole year thing. And we really take pride in making sure everyone knows, like, here's the goals, here's how we're going, this is the direction we're heading.
Yeah, there's so many people that do a strategic plan and put it on the shelf and never revisit it, and then wonder why they didn't achieve the results. And you have to keep your eyes fixated on the ball. And when you look at your leadership development, I did a presentation earlier this year for CEOs that came in from around the country, and one of the things that we looked at was, leadership is one of the biggest challenges in 2022, and CEOs only trust 48% of their senior leaders to deliver the results on the objectives that have been set, right? Which that's a scary number, that you don't trust half your senior leaders to do that. What was even scarier than that, and to your point, we need to develop people, they only had 11% confidence in the people who were sitting in the seat behind the senior leader, right? And so you don't believe in the senior leader, and we really don't believe in the people that are behind them. And yet people aren't putting into place or taking action on developing leadership programs. What are we doing to prepare those people? What's the exposure? And so what came out of your meeting today? What is it that you're going to do to help develop those people through the program?
Yeah, I mean, so step one is we said, hey, they need to be in here at least for the financial review of the executive meeting, right? Like, let's get them familiar with the financials, because frankly, some of them, I don't think they even know what, profit and loss statements and balance sheets and how this all works. So like, we need to educate them on that. Two, that entire level should be doing what we're doing as executives. That entire level should be meeting together, because they're kind of in their little silos. We need them to start working together to understand what everyone else's silos are and start making this thing work a little bit better together. So that's kind of the next step for the next executive meeting. And we've just said, hey, we're going to do those things. And then let's talk about it at that meeting and figure out what the next step is. And we'll just keep building this thing up and reiterating up as we go. But yeah, you're 100% on there. You got to have the goals. They got to know what they are. I can tell you all the managers have to present their goals every year. Every time we do meetings, it's about the goals. And this is the first year we tied in all the employees' bonus to the strategic goals. So this year, all the employees know we tied it right to the top line revenue number. We hit this 65 million number. Here's the bonuses you're going to get 70, 75, all the way up to 80 million. And if we hit 80 million, I mean, we're paying out somewhere around $3 million in bonuses this year to our employees. So they're all asking the question. It's the first day they ask the question, how do we get to that number? What can I do to help get to that number? That became a very important number to everybody all of a sudden. So it's really kind of helped get everyone understanding like where we're trying to get to and why we're trying to get there.
Amazing. There was just a flurry of questions that came in. Everyone wants to know, are you hiring?
Yeah. We're always hiring. Yeah. So I mean, we plan to go like plus 50 this year. So if you go to diesellaptops.com and go to About Us, there's open jobs on there. Actually, we had to staff up. We had a full-time HR recruiter. Now we got 2. So right. We're actively out there trying to find people. A lot of what we try to find is really specific stuff, certain software developers and that type of thing. But we're always looking for great talents, where we can find it. So yeah, diesellaptops.com. There's a job section on there. It'll point you somewhere.
I think everyone was excited about the $3 million bonus. That was the potential. Yeah. I saw Isaiah's eyes light up.
Yeah, we thought that was really important. I'm really fortunate. We have bootstrapped this. We have no debt. We have cash in the bank, and the cash keeps growing. So we're sitting there saying, man, we just need to keep hitting these top line revenue numbers. We can manage the cost of goods, these other things. We know where it'll drop on the income statement. And let's just start putting money across each month. So like every executive meeting this year, it's how much have we reserved? Are we on pace, or do we need to reserve more? And actually for a lot of the employees, we actually paid them out after the first quarter because we're like, hey, we're going to hit that $65 million number. No problem. We're going to pay you guys out early. And employees are pretty happy this week. They got their raises this week, and a lot of them got their quarterly bonus. So they were pretty excited about that.
I love it. Congratulations. That's a fun story to reinvest into your people. So if anyone has questions, you can put them into the chat. I want to continue to drive down this road because 2 of our most recent guests, we had the 4th smartest marketer in the world, Pablo Gonzalez, on. He was on last week. And prior to that, we had a guy, Alex Sanfilippo, who built a SaaS company that matches podcast hosts with podcast guests. And while everyone was binge watching Netflix during the pandemic, he built a company with 27,000 members. And so he's an extraordinary guy. I want you to talk a little bit about, we look at the 3 core functions of every business. It's marketing, sales, and operations. I think it's unique, Tyler, that you have built your whole business around a content strategy. And I know people hear about content. Maybe I should do that. Oh, something nice to get to. Tell us a little bit about how you did that, what your approach was, and how that's made an impact on your business.
Yeah. So 7 years ago when I quit my job, I was like, all right, I need sales. And how do I go compete against billion-dollar companies and people that are established in our space? Like, how do you do that? And at the end of the day, I was like, man, well, I can't afford billboards. I can't afford to do all these things that other people are doing or hiring salespeople. I don't have the money. What do I do? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get really, really good at making sure I rank really high on Google for the things that we need to. So the reason my company is called Diesel Laptops is because diesel and laptops were the 2 most common search words for diagnostic tools at the time. So that was even before I quit my job, right? So that's where it started with, but I made a dedicated focus every single week. On Monday, I was like, I'm going to do one thing this week to improve my organic Google search rankings. One thing. And a lot of times it was really simple. I'm going to go talk to my vendors and make sure I'm listed on their website with a link back to my website to give me a link back. I'm going to go make a YouTube video and I'm going to make sure I SEO optimize the heck out of it for a key thing that people are looking for. I'm going to go make a blog post. I'm going to go clean up a product listing and make that product listing SEO friendly. And it really doesn't take much work. But when you start looking at it and you start saying, man, I did one thing a week, all of a sudden I did 52 things, they really add up. So for example, my first YouTube videos were super crappy. It was me taking a laptop out to a yard somewhere with a truck and with one hand holding the phone and one hand on the keyboard, walking people through how this tool works and what it does. But I can tell you now, our YouTube channel has almost 8 million views on it. And we're in the B2B space on diagnostic tools, right? So we have no business having 8 million views, but people are trying to do this stuff. And I was an industry guy. So I was like, hey, here's the tool. Here's what it does. Here's how it works. Here's the problem it solves. And we did those things, and all that stuff just starts to snowball. I mean, I can tell you there's one blog post we have that generates something like 60,000 visitors a year to our website. And depending on what your niche on, 60,000 is a lot or a little. In the B2B space of diagnostic tools, it's a lot. And it drives them to that page. It gives them great information. We give away some free stuff. They engage. I get their email address. I get their phone number. You're in my sales funnel. And eventually we know everyone needs to buy something that's in the diagnostic or truck repair space. Like eventually you need something. We just want to make sure we're the first thing you think of when you do that. So for us, that's still a big part of our business. I have 200 employees, 10 of them work in marketing. I have a full-time video person. I have a writer. I have graphic people. I got marketing managers. I have a social media person. That's all she does is go on social media and post stuff and create content and share content and find influencers. And I can tell you, in the B2B space, in this big world, we work with companies that do billions in revenue, and they don't even have an online presence that even we're speaking of. So it's really crazy. And it was really easy for us because we're in a non-competitive space and nobody was doing these things. So we were able to rank really high, really fast. And you get to be a pretty good SEO expert once you start doing one thing every week and measuring results and just learning about it. It's such a valuable skill. I can't understate the importance of it that any company really can do, but it's all about creating content, driving traffic, building awareness. And like I said, it's a snowball. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every single month as your business goes on. So think about it long-term. Don't think about it in the short-term time that it takes you. And by the way, that blog post I mentioned, that thing probably took me 10 hours to write. So a lot of people say 10 hours is a waste of time. I say, no, it's not. You have no idea how much revenue that one blog post has generated for my company. So you got to think of it in a little bit different aspect.
I just spoke with Jeff Woods, who runs the training agency connected to Gary Keller's book, The One Thing. And that whole notion of doing one thing again and again and again and again. There's a book called 1%, Get 1% Better Every Day. It's a good example that consistency creates results, and people are too impatient about doing that. I mean, I look at our show, and when we started, I said, this is 9 months. I don't even, not paying attention to like anything in what we're doing until 9 months, because I think people get discouraged that people, don't show up. We had a technical issue today. People are still here, which is amazing. We were on the wrong meeting ID, and there's, 8 people on the call. I just look and say, if you're providing value to the community, eventually people just keep on coming, right? And it's the same thing. You started with a camera and a laptop, and it was crappy production. It didn't matter at the end of the day. It was valuable and useful, and therefore, if you build it, they will come. 8 million views later, here we are.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the 1%. That's a conversation we had end of last year with my marketing department was, hey guys, what if we could get 1% more of a traffic to our website to convert? And our definition of convert is fill out a form, initiate a chat, buy something, do some interaction with us. And when you drill down, you're like, man, 1%, if only 1% more did, that's another, I can't remember the exact number, right? Another X number of leads per month. Well, one lead to us could be a $10,000 sale. And lo and behold, our team started working on it. And guess what? We've doubled the number of leads we get per month compared to last year at this point. So it's just looking at those little things, making little tweaks, little adjustments, converting traffic, and bringing it through the sales cycle. So our marketing team over here does a tremendous job delivering sales leads. Actually, we got the opposite problem most companies have. We have the problem of too many sales leads coming in. Our sales department saying, hold up, we can't deal with all these leads coming in. We got to staff up and do these things. So it's a good problem to have. And we're trying to fix the sales side of it as well. But that's one of the problems we had growing up is you never grow sales, marketing, and operations all at the same time. They go in different things and you end up with a little bit of chaos. So we're a little more aware of that problem today.
Hence the name of my company, Proven Chaos, because
Yes.
Everyone goes through chaos at different points. You've proven there's a marketplace, but somehow your people, your systems, or your process haven't kept pace. And so it becomes, an issue for you, creates stress. One last piece that I want you to talk about, because I thought it was really unique, is that you sit with every new hire that comes into your company. Tell us about why you do that. Why is that important?
Well, man, it was really nice when we were small because I got to hire everyone, right? So you got to interview them and talk to them and get to know them. And I'd bring them out to lunch the first day, and I wanted to feel part of the company because here's why. I have been inside a lot of companies. I've worked for other companies, and every time I've seen a company or department that is high functioning, hitting their goals, hitting their objectives, doing well, the common denominator I almost always see is, man, they've had the same employees there forever. These people know what to do. There's not a lot of questions. There's not the chaos. They've been doing it. They work well together. And then every other time I've seen a department or a company in chaos, it's like, well, this guy's been here 2 months. This guy just got here. Someone just quit, and the whole department's turned over, and they're usually not functioning as well. So we really want to keep employees around as long as possible, and it's a thing we talk about in the beginning. And that was number one. Number two was, I was walking around, and when you have a lot of employees, and you start seeing strange faces in the hallway, you're always like, man, is that an employee? Is that a customer? Is that a vendor? Who is that person? And I didn't want to be the guy walking around not knowing the names of my employees and who they are. And it's a difficult thing to stay on top of, but I thought it was important. I thought it was very important because they usually know who I am. They see my podcast or my videos, or they've read about me before they even start here. And I don't get that same interaction with them on that other end. So to me, employees are a really important thing. And a lot of companies I've worked with, they kind of viewed them as a hassle, or viewed them as liabilities, or a thing they had to have. And we try to go to the other end and say, man, we value you as an asset. We need you to grow our business. We need you to take care of our customers. We need you to do these things. This is important to the company, and this is why. And if you can do that, typically you have lower turnover, and people care about why they work there. People can work anywhere. There's 11 million open jobs in the US today. Someone's always going to pay somebody more money. So we've said, look, we can't always pay people the most money in the marketplace. We need to be competitive, but we need to make it a great work environment. And we need to make it a place where there's a career path for them to up their career if that's the path they want to go on. So yeah, man, employees are the most critical piece of a company. You don't have a company without them. They're the people that are representing you every single day inside your organization, to everyone else. You got to take care of them.
I'm so aligned with you. I just look and say, there are ideas that don't scale, and that's one of them. But boy, what a great investment of your time to your people and to making sure that your company culture maintains. Because one of the things that I talk about a lot is it's way easier to run companies when you bring in tens, what I call 10 performers, versus the sixes and sevens that are hard, and they have lots of questions, not because they have questions, everyone has questions, but because they're not thoughtful people and they don't figure stuff out. And it's just easier to live in pain and wait to be patient to hire the 10 instead of filling the butt in seat just because you have a need. And protecting the company culture, I don't know that there's anything more important other than protecting the balance sheet for a CEO to do that. So I just love that you're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you before we had we have a great senior VP of HR. He comes out of Amazon and Kia Motors. Like he's been around. Before that, we didn't have that. It was just find people, give me bodies, let's do things. And we ended up in a not a good situation. I ended up having an employee embezzle money from us. We had a lot of what I call locker room talk going on in certain departments, which caused some, not good issues going on. Yeah. And you just weren't getting the right people and the right fit. And it was us not hiring right to begin with. And we really want to hire the right people and get them to fit in and do those things. And I don't think we're perfect by any stretch, but I think we really pay attention to it more than others. And we actually look at every single separation and we grade it. Is it either regrettable or unregrettable? And I can tell you all the times where it's regrettable for us, where like we wish they would stay. It's usually a case where they weren't getting along with their manager or their department, or we didn't have a clear career path. Very rarely is it about, oh, I got some more money somewhere else. So we take that back and we just kind of keep evolving and keep trying to build those paths and make sure we have the right workplace and work environment for our employees.
I think it's awesome. And I'll tell you, it's the question that I get most often on LinkedIn when people DM me. They say, I saw your stuff. It's amazing. And this resonated. It's about hiring. And so next week, I'm going to break down how do you hire and retain superstar employees. And so I'm going to walk through from like, don't be passive, especially in this environment of waiting for people to apply, to become your own recruiting firm internally, and the process that you can take people through to make sure that you are hiring both someone who is technically capable, but also aligns with the vision and the values of the company. Because as I've said before, we hire for technical ability, but we fire for values misalignment. It's just how it works.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, nobody ever wants to fire anybody, right? Like I hate firing people. I know my employees hate firing people. We try to put them on, performance improvement plans and do all those things. But unfortunately, most employees that get to the improvement plan don't end up making it anyway. But we want to do all those things and try to retain as much as we can. And again, it always hits me in the gut when someone chooses to leave us, right? Like you never want that as a CEO or a boss, but hopefully you learn a little bit from it. And I think every time we have a loss around here, there was an employee or a deal we lost or something didn't go right, we always take kind of that gut check and be like, man, what went wrong? What can we do different? How can we fix this? Let's prevent that from happening again, and go through that same conversation.
Lots of learning. I always say we're better together. Which, speaking of, every Thursday from 2 to 3 o'clock, we do office hours, which is a opportunity for people to come together and solve hard problems together. So I invite you to go to provenchaos.com. You can register for office hours. It's a free event that we do. Isaiah was on there this week. And so anyone have any questions? I haven't seen anything in the chat, but I saw Isaiah move closer to the mic. So what do you have, Isaiah?
I had two questions for you.
Yeah.
One of them has to do with really the last, call it 24 months. How did COVID essentially affect your business? What were the different things that you've done changing one way or the other with the business? And then the other one is, are you still the driver of the overall direction of the business now that you've gotten out of your own way? Or do you have someone else in a leadership role that's really driving the direction?
Yeah. So COVID, it's sad to say this, but it was one of the best things that happened to us for a couple of reasons. Number one, we were spending a lot of money on things we thought we had to spend money on. So at that time, we were really spending a lot of money on Google advertising, and we cut it to zero. We thought the phone would stop ringing. It didn't. Another one was trade shows. You end up cutting out $1 million in expenses, and you find out your business still grew 25, 30%, and you're kind of second guessing a lot of things. And we also, I think, did a lot of things with employees. So we actually took one of our conference rooms and we gutted it, and we hired a school teacher, and we turned it into an elementary classroom. And we told our employees, hey, we don't know what's going to go on with school. Come on, you can bring your kids to work, and we'll have a school teacher here and a teacher's assistant, and they'll work through all the remote stuff and do all those things for the students. We did temperature checks. We did weekly COVID testing for free for everybody. We actually knew COVID was coming. The countries we work with and import a lot of product from are, if you recall, China and Italy and Spain were kind of the first three big countries. Well, guess our top three suppliers are China, Italy, and Spain. So we actually had a plan beforehand. So as soon as kind of things happened, we immediately executed. We had all the resources. Everyone was at home within a couple hours of when we made that call and working from home. So I think we handled COVID as well as anybody could. The fact is, trucks were still moving a lot during COVID. So that was the one thing, trying to keep grocery stores full and all these things that were happening. So our industry didn't really stop. And of course, now with home building and construction and trucking still is blowing and going, trying to deal with the whiplash of COVID. So there's been some macro effects on our business. I can tell you on the CEO side, I am definitely the driver of the vision and where we're going as a company. So a lot of this has been in place for a while now. Obviously, I've gotten a lot of help to really clarify the vision on where we're going. And now I got great people, senior vice presidents that we meet with quite regularly. I mean, I talk with these guys on the phone pretty much every day, or a Zoom session. A lot of them aren't here. And we're really in tight alignment on what needs to happen. And they're the execution guys. So we plan together, but they're the guys that got to go execute and push it down through their departments and make sure things happen. And that's one of the things we struggle with here is I'm still kind of the visionary guy, the guy like, hey, let's do this thing or that thing and putting these things together. And we're starting to get some more of those people inside our company that are that way. But it's hard. You have to be an industry guy, plus someone that thinks about things differently, understands the business. That's just a small pool of people out there. And we're really trying to encourage hard our managers and industry folks, especially, keep giving us ideas, keep giving us suggestions. And truthfully, a lot of the ideas and suggestions actually come from customers. So a lot of times we come out with something. How'd you think of that? Like, well, a customer asked for it, so we built it, and now here it is. So hopefully I answered your questions there for you. But yeah, in a sense, it's been a crazy 24 months to say the least. I'm sure all of us have gone through similar things.
Hey, I saw you come on camera. Did you have a question?
No, I think this is awesome. I love the growth and the alignment of the goals and the strategic plan. I think one of the things that we've initiated is our quarterly check-in with my senior leadership team, and we have that off-site and we bring everybody in. We actually stay in Airbnbs together, because I found that the togetherness, we're always talking, right? Always throwing out ideas. And we take away our to-do list and match that up with what we're going to be doing, kind of for the next quarter, basically. So it sounds like you're doing that too, and that's awesome. So
yeah, it's all about communication, planning, making sure everyone's, how are you going this year? I mean, we did that today with our executive meeting. We went through some of the top level strategic goals. Are we on schedule? Are we not on schedule? And, we have a lot of departments, a lot of people. We're trying to find better ways to keep things aligned and communicate the progress to all the employees. That's always a challenge as your organization grows. So no, that's the stuff I wasn't doing 3 years ago. It was just me showing up to work. Let's go sell stuff. Let's go do stuff. And chaos ensued, right? So it takes a while. And I think people, it's hard. I didn't have that skill set. I had to bring someone in to train us on, this is the way to do these things. And I think there's a lot of businesses out there that are just looking for structure and looking for help, and help's definitely out there.
To that point, I know you're doing quarterly planning, but here's the formula that I give to CEOs who are not doing it. If you have 50 people in your organization and they're all working 40 hours a week, and there's 13 weeks in a quarter, you're leaving to chance 26,000 hours of productivity. Like, let that sink in. Like 26,000 hours. You're just letting people figure out what they should be doing on behalf of the organization because you were, quote unquote, too busy to do the planning. And when you start to give people that context, they think, oh my gosh, why would I leave all that money and time to chance when I can actually sit down and create clarity for all of my people of, here's how you win as an organization. It changes the dynamic of how people feel about their work because, geez, now instead of just showing up trying to sell a bunch of stuff, here's the number that really helps me contribute to the company. And I feel really good about that. So when I go home and my wife asks, how did you do today? I can say, I did great because I contributed X number of widgets and that's what I'm supposed to do every single day. You change that dynamic. You should never leave to chance any of the people in our care. Did I win today? Right? We should have really clear metrics in that. And it starts with planning. And yet so many businesses feel like they're too busy or they're tending to too many fires to not do the work to plan their business.
Yeah. I think our employees are the managers, the ones responsible for their individual plans. I think we have 22 plans inside the company. They quickly realize, like, man, if I have a goal by the end of the year, some of these I need to start today. Otherwise I'm really in trouble before the end of the year. And, we do have those quarterly check-ins, like Harold was saying. And, they don't want that red flag on there saying I'm behind schedule. They all want to come in there being like, I'm ahead, I got this, no problem. So it's, it really holds everyone accountable inside the company, especially the managers that are in charge of the plan. So they have to come to us and ask for more resources and do all these things. And it's a just completely different company now than I was. Well, it's different now than it was a year ago and 2 years ago and 3 years ago. And I know the path we're on. I know my company's going to look a lot different from that organizational and planning structure a year from now. And that's a good thing. You want to make sure your company's continually moving in the right direction. And some people just, like you said, get stuck in the day-to-day, not working on the business.
Totally.
Our team to mark their key results for their quarters green or red. If you've ever done that exercise with a sales team, it's really difficult for them, okay? Because they want to mark it yellow or I got 80%, right? And they had a difficult time with that. Like, I really want to achieve my goal. And I was like, I understand that. We all want to achieve our goals, but it's red or it's green. So that's kind of how we went through those.
Yep. Salespeople are like surgeons. There's always hope. There is always hope. And so I'm not exactly sure. Every deal's never dead. They don't want to market closed lost. There's still possibility. They just haven't made a decision yet. And so way to force them into a binary red-green environment. Fun stuff. Tyler, you're someone that I want to keep up with, and I'm sure people here will want to keep up with you too. Where's the best place to find you?
Yes, I've been posting on LinkedIn about my story, I think, since like day one. So I still post on there a couple times a week, usually. So go on LinkedIn, Tyler Robertson or Tyler Diesel. And then, of course, if you want to learn more about our industry or look for a job, as some people have mentioned, diesellaptops.com. We're on there, a whole entire learn section if you want to learn about this crazy industry that we're in and trying to help.
I love it. We are so grateful that you're here. We are building a community around best places to lead. I think it's the whole concept of every business has the potential to be great, and it's the leaders that either get in the way or unlock that potential. And so I'm glad that you were able to get out of your own way despite getting your company to 20, 25 million and really unlock what the true potential is, because that's what people demand of us and deserve of us. And so thank you for sharing your brilliant story. I would invite all of you to come visit our Facebook community, Best Places to Lead, where we're going to share stories like Tyler's, inspirational stories, hot tips of like, here's how I can do this better. And I think that'll be a fun place for us to interact. So Tyler, thank you so much for joining. Everyone else, great to see you. Hopefully we'll see you next week, where I'll be breaking down best hiring practices, one of the most important things that is on everyone's mind in today's environment.